and welcome to Food Fight, Then versus Now. I'm your host, Howard. This is a show where I take a food from the past and its modern counterpart, prepare them both, put them before a panel of judges, and see which one is best. On today's episode of Food Fight, we're taking a food from the past known as Scotch Collup. It's a dish from the 1727 edition of Eliza Smith's book, The Complete Housewife. It's where you take a small piece of meat left over from preparing a main dish known as a collup, scotch it or cut it in a crosshatch pattern, dip it in egg yolk that has spices, then into flour, fry it in butter, and serve it with a brown mushroom gravy. So the actual recipe calls for you to hack the meat according to the instructions. I think just a gentle scoring is more than enough to get the effect that you want. Here we have 4 egg yolks, a tablespoon of salt, a half tablespoon of nutmeg, and a cup of flour. Here we have 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon fresh ground nutmeg, 4 egg yolks, and 1 cup of wheat flour. Our now recipe is chicken fried steak, a staple of Southern cuisine. It's made by preparing a thinly sliced piece of steak by pounding it flat, dipping it into flour, then into some sort of wet, usually cream with egg and spices, or milk with egg and spices, back into the flour, and then frying it in oil or butter, served with a white gravy. The white gravy is generally composed also with cream and spices, a lot of pepper, and sometimes with pork. Here we have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, being mixed into 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Here we have 1 large egg, 2 cloves of finely minced garlic, 1 teaspoon of hot sauce, being mixed into 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Hello, and welcome to Food Fight Then versus Now, our first tasting. Today we have 3 volunteers, the first 3 people I saw when I walked in the door. We have Marlene, Phoenix, and Brandon. Today they will be trying Scotch Collups versus chicken fried steak. And you will take the slices of orange and squeeze them over your Scotch Collups. That's how that's eaten according to the 1730 recipe tradition. And go ahead. Give it a taste and tell me what you think. Yet. Okay, Marlene, Scotch Collup, what do you think?
I don't think I got enough meat. More of the bread meat,
It's a very thin piece of meat when you make a Scotch Collup.
I like the mushroomy bits. The top part. I'm not usually a big fan of gravy, so it's plain white gravy. So it's really this is the kind of gravy.
All right, Phoenix.
Tastes good to me, but then I love mushrooms, so.
Good. And Brandon? Hurry, swallow, chew.
It's really good. I can't really taste that much of a difference between chicken fried steak as I remember it.
Well, wait till you try the regular chicken fried steak.
I was gonna say though, the orange zest in it though is new, and I really like that. And I'm gonna start doing that with chicken fried steak.
All right. Okay, since you finished your bite first, Marlene.
Okay, I like chicken fried steak. This is a little bit thicker, kind of than I'm used to.
Oh, wait, we'll vote at the end.
Okay, sorry, vote at the end. Yeah, it's the flavor is okay, but the white gravy is just not.
All right.
Not following.
Phoenix? Oh, okay, Brandon?
It was okay, and that may just be by comparison. I'm actually, now that I've tasted the chicken fried steak, I'm actually getting a bit more of a grease note to it.
So the chicken fried steak is fried in oil, whereas the Scotch Collup is fried in butter.
Ah.
And Phoenix.
It's good, but we're voting at the end.
Yes, we're voting at the end. Right after you finish your description, we'll just do a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, the thicker slice of meat's giving it a different texture.
Okay. All right, so we have then, which is the Scotch Collup, and now, which is the chicken fried steak. Marlene?
I definitely go for that.
Phoenix?
Then,
Brandon?
Then.
There you have it. Then versus now, then wins.
Well, there it is. It appears that the past recipe is the winner of today's episode, with all 3 judges voting for it. I have to admit, I think it might have been the gravy that pushed it over the top. That thick brown gravy with mushrooms is really quite tasty, whereas the chicken fried steak gravy is kind of a little bland. Also, I've noticed with this recipe and others that it seems that the past recipes fell out of favor not necessarily because they weren't delicious, but because they're a little harder to prepare. It was definitely a lot more effort making these Scotch Collups than it was the chicken fried steak. If you have any ideas of food you might like to see on Food Fight Then versus Now, leave me a comment below. And please like and subscribe. It really helps our channel. And thank you very much for watching.